Other ideas out there?
Oh, we're good.
Go for it, Eli.
It isn't just when we do complete these assignments, we should have 10, maybe 20 minutes during our classes to review them with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because on a few things, on a lot of major events, most people can agree. But having pro and con sort of thing, playing devil's advocate, I'm not a fan of it, but it helps.
Okay.
And I just figured that it would be better if we got it from each other.
So, I think structurally, routine can be really liberating. And what I guess I mean by that is, what if we say every Friday that we have a class that's either a designated share out day, a designated sort of what's up day where we can have conversations like this, or a designated like revision day, feedback and revision.
Sounds good.
Cool.
But if we're going to be doing it, we should try to have it be all three. Those who are completed should get reviewed. Those.
That way we can cycle it a little bit.
And I like a lot about like someone was talking about like at the end of every week have at least written something, but with like some sort of like structure and point or like analysis. I think that would be very beneficial to all of us to like keep track of like our mental like thinking process and like transporting that to like words and paper and like communications.
And we'll be able to like see growth and
Yeah.
track.
I think that's
Do you want me to tell you where to do that, or do you want to decide where to do that?
I don't even think it has to be that structured. I feel like if we just have some sort of response, or we like turn it in on school or something.
So you want a response from me?
I mean, I'm not even sure because I think we just brought it up, but like, if you want, I have no idea.
Give me like a topic and we'll
Or
worry about it.
I don't even think that like if like just like pick something like no like I'm just like spitballing you. Yeah, shut up, Ben. You don't know nothing. I don't know. It could be that, but I would like respond to something that you care about, or like have you read something you liked recently, or like is this
Yeah,
Is
you
there-
can pick a topic for us, and if we don't wanna write about the topic, we can write about something
yeah
else.
supply
Like, be
a topic if
flexible.
you have nothing to talk about.
It's
Okay.
sort of like our free writes that we do in the beginning of class, but maybe
Much more
not.
structured.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll do that.
Mhm.
We got.
And we could also have like, little discussions with different groups. If somebody had wanted to talk about gun control, somebody wanted to talk about flying and a whole bunch of other things, instead of just having it limited to one subject.
And I feel like we should almost have a time sectioned off for like response to reading, because I feel like reading and comprehension is going to be very important moving forward in college, and like just as a very important just like in your life. So I feel like a time to like respond to something you have read.
And I think that's something that you should give us, like read this and then respond to it. I think maybe it's beneficial for all of us to read our own thing, but I think also it'd be important for you to give us something to read, and then we can have one of these discussions, like discussion.
Cool. The one thing that I want you all to hear me say is that college is not going to, you're not going to have the same experience as your peer, as I've had, as your parents have had. Like, college is composed of individuals who have varying values and varying standards and honestly varying abilities to embody their own ideals. And various workloads. If you go to certain colleges, you will have teachers that are super able to like help you with time management and are super able to meet you where you're at. If you go to other colleges or find yourself in other spaces, you will have teachers that say, meet the standard, meet the deadline. If you don't, too bad, you're wasting your own money.
Darwin, baby.
And it's a matter of knowing what the rules are in the space that you're playing. Does that make sense? So when we're saying college prep, know that you're kind of preparing for the unknown, And that can be really beneficial because sometimes people over-prepare in that space. It can also be frustrating because you might prepare in ways that ultimately are not super useful. When I showed up at college, what was the most difficult part for me was I felt that I wasn't able to literally read everything that was expected of me to read in the time frame given. Like, so I had to make choices about what I was and wasn't going to read and where I could get away with that and where I couldn't. I think that that was because in the school setting that I was in, reading was seen as this thing that you got good at to a certain point and then you were like didn't need any help and you didn't need to improve. That's not true. Again, reading is a skill. Skills can be managed for improvement and there's no such thing as like perfection. So I think I got to a certain level, I plateaued at that level, I got to college where there was a different level going on, and I didn't like magically rise up to that level. I kind of faked it for a while, and then I figured out how to get up to that level over time. But there was like, there was a gap there for a bit. So what I want to say is, for those of you that are interested, I'm interested in coaching you around speed reading and how to increase this, basically, the time frame it takes you to cover a distance of text while maintaining your ability to internalize the information that is in that text. I'm going to create a Schoology assignment for you to sort of start engaging with this, and I'm going to make this optional because it's not going to be meaningful for some of you, but for some of you that are interested in this, I think what I'll do is I will include it as like an additional grade that won't hurt your grade but can help your grade. Does that make sense to people? It's essentially going to be you did it or you didn't do it. What it does is it asks you to create some initial numbers based off of something that you're reading, and then you do different exercises to manipulate those numbers. It's pretty simple, but it's also pretty transformative. Other ideas out there, it can be anything.
So I'm thinking for the weekly, if we're really going to do that, I think it has to be not like the type of assignment you just described. I think we need the academic habits behind it,
Okay.
just for a little bit of like, just so everybody's involved in the class. So it's like a group thing and not
Okay.
some people. But it's like,
Do y'all have any
Yeah.
response to that? He's essentially saying don't make it optional.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Then this is what I'm going to say. You need to document how you are improving as a reader in some way. I'm like excited to help you with that documentation. I'm going to provide a couple of different pathways, but it's going to be on you to manage your time to document how you're improving as a reader. Does that sound good? So that would be, look, I got my initial numbers, I went through these different sort of practices, and these are my numbers after the fact, and this is my reflection on why those numbers are what they are. It could be, I started off reading this text, which I found to be profoundly boring. I am now better at finding a pleasurable reading experience than I was at the start because I've done this, this, and this. Okay. Then I'm going to throw out another sort of provocation to us to see if we can talk some more. I feel like the first step in this writing for change unit, which is what I'm going to call it, is identifying different things that you want to see be different. Okay? So essentially I'm going to ask you to collect a number of ideas that you want to see change, and we're going to bring those ideas back to this class space by next Tuesday's class. That can be done in writing, it can be done using some sort of tech platform, but let's set a minimum of 3 potential subjects for you to write in response to. Does that sound good to people?
Just generally, like,
So I guess I would challenge you all to go like super ambitious, maybe super global, and then go super like local, and it still could be ambitious but super local, and then somewhere in between. So this could be I want them to change how they are like plowing the Hazen parking lot next year.
Yeah.
You're probably, honestly, if you're reasonable, you're probably gonna be able to get that done. It could be, I'm gonna harp on Vermont equity and funding for public schools. If you wanna get that done in 3 months, I will be very impressed and thankful. And then there would be something more global than that. Maybe I wanna change how the electoral college works in the United States. Does that make sense to people? So like, sort of tier them out is what I would say, but you can choose to do something else. So this is how, I guess I'm gonna restate how I see our class going forward. And you can remind me of things that I've forgotten. I've taken some notes. And you can, again, have an opportunity to say, hey, I think that should be different. You all are gonna have a grammar practice. You all are gonna have a vocab practice. You all are gonna have a sort of improved, this is how I'm improving my reading practice. You all are gonna share out at least once something you've read or written during the course of this quarter. If you haven't done that or you've missed a previous quarter, you can make up for that miss by doing it multiple times this quarter. Are there any questions there? Cool. That's going to be evaluated on a single point rubric. I'm essentially going to write down what I just said. If you do exactly what I just said, you'll get a 3. If you don't do it, you'll get either a 2 or a 1, depending on sort of how close you came. If you do it and then you demonstrate sort of bringing it into your life or exceeding what I just said, maybe sharing it with others, then you will get a 4. In addition to that, we're going to do a unit on writing for change. There will be some shared assignments and there will be some sort of individual things that come out of it. At the very base, by our next Tuesday class, you will have 3 potential subjects. You are going to choose which sort of aspect of writing to focus on when you are confronting these things you want to change. The examples I'm holding up are fictional, documentary, or argumentative, but there are other ways that you could do this if you want to. You could write a play, you could write a poem or a series of poems. There are other ways that you can do this. You could write songs. The final outcomes of that are going to be a digital story, a text, and an audience beyond the people that are in this room right now.
It's gonna be hard.
It is going to be hard. Hard is good.
I don't like that. I don't like that one. Can we cut that one out?
No, I'm really attached to that one, man.
yeah, that's the
I don't
one.
think you should be. I don't feel like it's gonna get done.
Well, so that's a good idea.
Entirely clear on what you mean by that.
Okay. So, thanks for saying that, Ben. Thanks for saying that, Marguerite. What I mean by that is that writing, Tamron, you can't be in here. Writing is something that needs to impact more than just an individual. It is meaningless to write stuff if you don't share it out. It is meaningless to write stuff and only share it with a confined group of people. And if we're going to prepare for being citizens of the state of Vermont and like meaningful members of our college communities or career communities, you need to be able to write something and then share it with a larger audience. I'm not saying that it has to be super big, but I am saying that it has to go beyond this classroom. So it could be a short letter to the editor. It could be hey, I just like submitted this thing for publication to teeninc.com. It could be hey, I created this digital story and I shared it on an internet platform. Maybe I went to Mr. Craig and said, hey, throw this up on the Hazen website. Bippity boopity, check. It could be I reached out to the Hardwick Elementary School and said, hey, this is something that I've written. I'd love to come share it with you all and talk with students about what writing at Hazen could look like for them. So like it's going to be different for many of you. We're going to find sort of easy ways to check the box. And then there are going to be other people that find ways to make it super meaningful for them and their communities. It's good to have in your mind right now, that's going to be the hard part for me. Because if you bring that level of awareness, you're more likely to confront that difficulty than procrastinate on it, right? So Ben, I'd say like right now you should start to think about like how you're going to be able to share this out with a larger audience. What's up?
Even before you even do it.
It doesn't matter. So with Theodore as your Ask, Try to Play, and we're going to be presenting in front of the Highland Arts Center, could we incorporate that into like writing something and then sharing it to a larger audience?
Yes.
We can.
Yes.
You can pretty much do whatever you want as long as you do it.
The next thing I'm going to say is we have what goes on with you all in J term. I just don't know.
Walk around.
Yeah. Okay. So Wild West. I think it's probably also a time frame that if you are missing certain summatives that you can make up during that time frame. What I'm going to say is, as a class, I think that we should shoot to be done when it comes to J term. That way, that if there are individuals that are not done, there will be some time between like this class having all the assignments out there and you getting some feedback on those assignments and being able to make them up. Along those lines, I'm going to set in the near future some deadlines for when I need you to do things. If you are not doing those things, ultimately it's your responsibility to know that you haven't done those things when I've asked you to do them. Does anyone have a response to what I just said?
So I was gonna say this before. Definitely something that's been going wrong in the last few quarters is we've only been held responsible for the large amount, like the list of things we had to do, like 3 days before the quarter ends.
Uh-huh.
Like for both quarters, that's kind of what it's been like.
Yeah.
So I think like you asking us like to show something of it by the end of the week, like like show it to you. Like each individual needs to show you that they're taking the right steps before the week's over.
Cool.
Or we're just not gonna do it.
Okay. Then what I'm going to say is that, again, by Tuesday's class, you need to have 3 potential ideas for things that you want to try to change using writing. That's sort of our first expectation. I think beyond that, what I'll say is by Tuesday's class, you should have written reflection on how you are going to do a better job of practicing grammar and vocab in this final quarter.
Can you like put that on Schoology?
Yes. So my next step is going to be to, at the top of Schoology, put that assignment up there.
For next Tuesday.
Yeah, for next Tuesday. I think what I'll say is, what do you all think I should do when, at the end of class on Tuesday, there's a chunk of students who have not done that? What's that?
That's great. I mean, they're not participating, they're not doing what they're supposed to. I mean, I think the expectation is pretty clear.
Cool.
I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna come to next week and half the classes are gonna do it and they're gonna complain anyway, so.
If you put it in as a 0 on Power School, then that's on them.
Mm-hmm.
They have to make that up. They have to get it done while we're starting something else.
Right, everybody needs a 2.5
What-
You'll just be
graduate this,
Here's
graduate high
something.
school.
What if, right now, I make that assignment and give you all zeros in Power School? Why not?
Not funny, dude.
I don't know.
Cause then I'm ineligible. Yeah, then I'm ineligible.
There's the answer.
Oh, that's okay.
There's the answer, and that's a legit answer. Thanks for that.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true.
Okay. So we have 6 minutes left in this class. I think. Oh no, we have
We have a little longer than
16. 16. I guess
Woo!
what I wonder is, are there any things that people are sort of have lingering in their heads? If they're not, I'm gonna say some more stuff that might provoke us. What do you got, Eli?
Truth be told, sir, there's a particular assignment that I'm close to completing.
Uh-huh.
I just figured I should say.
Cool. Sweet, thanks for that. One thing that you all should know is that while we have quarters still, those quarters are not set in stone. There are pieces of paper that get sent out, but if your performance, we no longer average quarters together because that hurts people who, for legitimate reasons, might not perform at their best at certain points in time. So, it's all just people making decisions, man. All it is I like re-enter it. I go talk with people in guidance or write something on a piece of paper.
And it's all different.
Bippity-boopity, it's all different. So if you have a past performance that you are not proud of, or you want to change, or maybe you didn't do, nothing is ruined. But you need to do something if you are going to receive credit for that. Does that make sense? So, last things I'm going to say. No longer is it acceptable for us to be going to the library. I'm just like fully taking that away. I might be open to returning that to you if I see like a sea change in engagement in this class.
What about for students that were engaged before?
I think I'm gonna go tragedy of the commons here and just say like, I'm sorry, I'm like really sorry because you valued that, but I don't know how to get improved. Like, I think it's gonna be meaningful for a lot of people to say, you need to be here, you need to be working. And if I open up that on a person by person basis, I think that people will show some poor self-awareness around whether or not they can access that resource and manage it appropriately. So that's what I'm saying right now. I will reevaluate at a future date if I see like dramatic change. Another advantage of saying everyone needs to be in the space is folks that value their educations and are performing at a high level might be able to exert some pressure on those that are not showing that at a given time frame to try to bring us all up to a higher performance level. Like, Scottie Pippen was better when Michael Jordan was on the court with him. One thing that I actively wonder about.
Two in the chain, something.
One thing that I wonder about is, should I continue to give us a designated time period to read and write at the start of our class?
I like the reading.
I really don't.
It should be optional.
Should be optional.
I like the idea of keeping reading, but I think for writing,
If we're moving towards the weekly thing anyway.
yeah, I think we should be able to work on our weekly writing instead of writing something else that's random.
And then just poof, there goes.
Gone,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think maybe that's the time you could designate a piece of writing for us and a response.
Yeah.
So I think that process-wise, what I'm going to say is, first class that we have in a week, I will give us a writing prompt. And I will attach one of the Vermont AOE writing proficiencies that you are trying to demonstrate in response to that prompt. If you don't give me something by Friday in response to that prompt, you will get a 0 in Power School for that week's writing. If you finish that writing, or if you just don't want to write at the start of a class, you can choose to quietly read instead. What I'm going to sort of say needs to happen, and I will hold you accountable in your academic habits grade, unless you want me to hold you accountable in a different way, is that the start of class needs to be quiet for the first 10 minutes. Then we'll come together and have some sort of like redirection or share out, and then we'll have another time period where we can use the class period to work.
Grind.
I guess I really value the idea that if you are working efficiently in the class space, there will not be work for you outside of the class space. That's not to say like don't work out of the class space. That's to say that we all have different lives, and certain people are more able to work outside of class than others, and I think it's unfair to have the like baseline expectation be you must be do more work than you can possibly get done in the school day. All right. Anybody else have any ideas?
I have something about like the class. I think this quarter, it really needs to be much quieter in here. A lot of people aren't getting work done, and I know that I haven't been able to get a lot of work done because I can't read or type anything up when there's a conversation going on, like a really loud conversation going on. So I think while we're working, there shouldn't be any conversations. I mean, you can like ask someone next to you a question, like that's work related, but I think other than that, it should be quiet. And I think that should be like a strict rule.
So, I guess I wonder two things. Does anyone have a response to that? / how should I enforce that? Should it be a, hey, you weren't quiet during that 10-minute time period, get out of my class?
I think it should be, well, this isn't just for like that reading or writing part, like 10 minutes. It should be for pretty much the whole class so that we can actually get our work done. I think that if people keep talking, they should be moved, and I mean, it's kind of like a 3 strikes, you're out. That's how a lot of other teachers do it, and I think that, I mean, it works.
I also think that I think we're seniors, and I think we're kind of past that. I think people are gonna have conversations, and I understand that there is a line that can be crossed where it's impossible to concentrate, but I think people are gonna have conversations and talk.
I mean, I understand that
Relevant to what we're
people,
doing.
Right, understandable,
Like
yeah.
what you said talking, like we could talk about something relevant to work, the work we're doing.
Right.
yeah, but when people are like continuously having conversations about something that's happening outside of the classroom or whatever, it gets really loud, and the people that are trying to work can't work because,
We should be here to work, and that's it.
yeah. It's kind of disrespectful to people that aren't doing the work to be talking while other people are trying to.
I'm gonna throw out one additional thing. I'm about to be an English teacher who's talking about science. There's a disclaimer. But even if you are working and I pull out my phone and start looking at it, you cannot resist but to be distracted by that. The human brain is kind of wired for social engagement.